Hi. I don't know what happened with my countdown, and now I don't even know if I'm on air. So I'm going to look at the chat and wait for people to come in. Today, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, spelling mistakes. It's going to be spelling mistakes, but not as you know it, maybe not what you expect, because I have a confession to make. I love spelling mistakes. I Okay, yes, I don't like making spelling mistakes and other people seeing them, but I do love finding spelling mistakes, thinking about spelling mistakes, helping other people understand why spelling mistakes actually happen and why is it even a thing. So today I'm going to talk about spelling mistakes. It would be great if you say hello in the chat, tell me where you're coming from or where you're hearing us from. And I would like to ask you to share with me your most embarrassing spelling mistake. And don't get me wrong, I don't think there should be such a thing as an embarrassing spelling mistake. We all make spelling mistakes, um, and that's something to be expected. But surely at some point in your life, you've been consistently making a spelling mistake that you didn't even know was a spelling mistake. And then one day you did find out. So if you write that in the comments, then we can all have a little laugh about it. I'm going to explain the story of one of my most embarrassing spelling mistakes. Let me just check. Oh no, I'm just being told I am live, which I am, although nobody's watching yet. We need to work on that. Maybe I will change the time of the session. Please feel free to write down in the comments if you would rather have these sessions at a different time. That's perfectly fine with me. So hopefully you can see my screen now. And I'm going to write down, and it's going to be painful to write, but I'm going to write it down. My one of my most embarrassing spelling mistakes. I used to write all the time. Oh, look, now I was going to write it correctly. That's quite funny. After years of doing it wrong. I used to write all the time, grateful. Oh, no. That's the correct one. Oh, this is terrible. No, the one I actually want to write is the wrong one. You can see some words you can't really ever get them right, can you? So I used to spell a particular word like this. I used to write grateful. And I was already working in a school and I have been working there for quite a while. And I always wrote in my emails, I would be very grateful if you could do this and that. And nobody ever said anything to me. And I thought, well, surely I'm a Latinist. I think about the origin of words. Great. This is a word of Germanic origin with the full, the Germanic ending. So obviously, great, big, fantastic is full of greatness, yes? And I thought it comes from, the same adjective that you have in German. You have, oops. So I'm not controlling my pen very well today. Groß, meaning big, yeah? So I thought, oh, it must come from that root. But actually, it had to be the Latin teacher in the school, embarrassingly for me, who had to come to me and say, Anna, that's not how you spell grateful. When you're feeling grateful for something, the way to spell it, so I'm going to use, it's not very trendy not to use red color, but I think it puts you off making the same mistake again. So I'm going to use a red color here. She revealed to me, and it's interesting because I must have seen this word before very many times in reading, but it just had not registered for some reason. I had a screen on my eyes that you actually write. Oops. Well, my graphic tablet is letting me down today. Let's see. There you go. That one goes out. And now I'm going to write the correct version of it, which is grateful, which I initially thought, surely that's not right. Is it like a grater or something? Or you're going to grate it? But then it was the Latin teacher telling me, and it was a senior teacher. And anyway, you should listen to anyone who tells you about your spelling, because you never know when you're going to be wrong. So I listened to her, and then we thought about it. And obviously, grateful comes from the Latin gratus, meaning pleasing. So it means it's full of pleasure. It's very pleasing, yeah, like the same root you have in words like grace, etc. So this is my dirty little secret with spelling mistakes. I wrote grateful, like you see here at the top, for a really long time. And the funny thing is, I was teaching this week with one of my students, and the word grateful came up, and she wrote it down correctly. And then she looked at the word and said, no, wait a second, that cannot be right. And I said, actually, I know this word quite well. That's how you write it. It comes from gratus. It doesn't come from great. So yeah, it's one of those few words which had a Latin stem, but then the ending is Germanic, that full. I'm aware that this looks quite untidy, so I'm now going to stop sharing my screen. And I have somebody watching me. Hi, whoever you are. If you want to say hello, that would be great. And if you want to share with us one of your spelling mistakes, that would be fantastic. If you don't want to, that's fine too. Now, so you will be thinking now, oh, she said she was going to reveal all these secrets about spelling mistakes today. Well, the secret is probably that there's no secret to this. I just really want to talk about our attitude to spelling mistakes. And then I want to give you a tip with a book that I have ready here to show everyone. At the end, I'm going to show you the best book that you can read to improve your spelling mistakes. But before that, I'm just going to talk about the attitude to spelling mistakes. We get quite embarrassed when we make a spelling mistake, like as if we've broken some superior rule that was there before the beginning of time, when in fact, spelling is a set of conventions, and it changes from country to country, and it does change over time. Obviously, it has to change with the languages, and this is partly why we have so many problems in English. So we need to see spelling as a set of conventions that we need in order to write correctly, and they're useful for communication. But we need to leave behind all the shame around making spelling mistakes, because really, particularly in modern times, and some people are going to listen to me and say, like, don't say that. I'm going to say that. You have the spell checkers, and they're very good. They can help you. They're fantastic for learning about your spelling as well. So in this day and age, don't be embarrassed about your spelling mistakes. Just be accepting, embrace them, and ask yourself, oh, why did I make that spelling mistake? Oh, that's why. Excellent. I've learned it. If you go to the root of the spelling mistake, you will stop making it. Now, why do people make so many mistakes in English, so many spelling mistakes? I'm from Spain. We don't have spelling bees there. We don't have that sort of competition where you need to spelling or spelling tests. My daughter is now in year 1, and every week she's got a spelling test. Terrible, poor thing. We don't have that in Spain. And why don't we have that? Because Spanish is what we call a more transparent language. What do I mean by that? Do I mean that Spanish in itself is more transparent? No, not really. What I mean by that is that the way we write Spanish reflects letter by letter much more closely the sounds that we use when we speak it. So it's actually a very easy system to learn. You have the 27 letters and you have the 27 sounds, and this is summarizing it and simplifying it a lot, as any Spanish speaker will know, because there's the H's and the B's and the V's. But anyway, compared to English, yeah, it's a very simple system. And so once you've learned the convention, off you go. The same with German. And why is that? It's because in Spanish and in German, the rules have kept changing with the use. So the rules have been adapting to the speakers. Whereas in English, it is a massive mess. And it's a mess for many different reasons. One of the reasons is that the rules stopped changing to adapt to the spoken language. But there are others. For example, you need to think that when the missionaries came to introduce Latin and talk about the church to the locals in what nowadays is England, they came with the Roman alphabet, the Latin letters, but they encountered a language that had many more vowels. Because yes, in English you write 5 vowels, but you don't have 5 vocalic sounds, you have plenty more. And so they had to resort to combination of letters to create some of the sounds. And then also they didn't have a way to show the long and the short vowels, so they also had to resort to the way they wrote the syllables and whether they added what we now call the silent T's, etc. Then add to this, which was already problematic, the history of English, where you have the massive influx of Norman vocabulary, and then that vocabulary changing over time, and then no reforms taking place. So you've been left with a mess. It's almost like some words don't really reflect anymore what we read when we read them. Like if you think about enough, you write with GH. Okay, so at this point you might all be discouraged and thinking, oh, so it does have no logic to it. There's nothing we can do about it. Either you're very good and you learn a lot when you're reading, or you're terrible with your spelling and you just can't remember it. No, it doesn't work like that. Actually, by studying the history of the language and by seeing how the different spellings came to be, you can become much better at remembering and even guessing what a word will be spelled like. And that takes us to the book I wanted to recommend you today to work on spelling. And I know that I work with younger children, and I'm not going to recommend this book for younger children. I'm going to recommend it for parents who want to help their younger children understand why the system of the English spelling is apparently so complicated. Because once you look deeper into it, things make more sense, like I found out with my grateful example. So the book is called Spell It Out, and it's written by David Crystal. I'm a big fan of David Crystal. He has fantastic books on linguistics that are very approachable, very readable, even for people who don't have a background in linguistics. So I really recommend it. And I don't know, just to help you with what the book itself says about it itself, it asks questions like, why is there an H in ghost, but not in goat? Many people may have asked that question before. Why is there a silent B in dead? I have to say, when I started learning English, because I had never heard some of the words I was learning, I actually used to say depth, and make a big effort. Actually, at some point for daughter, I was even saying doctor, because I was like thinking about the spelling. If you only see the word and you don't hear it, you can get quite confused. Anyway, why is there a silent B in dead? Why is I before E except after C? Except, of course, half the time it isn't. How did we end up with row, an argument, and row, a boat, being spelled the same? Where did the spellings... Sorry, I didn't read that correctly. That's hilarious, actually. I didn't mean... An argument is a row. It's not a row. But you see, English is confusing. Don't feel bad for your spelling mistakes. We're all the victims of the system. So how did we end up with row, an argument, and row, a boat, being spelled the same? Where did the spellings of chutzpah and brunette come from? And how do we spell the noises we make when we're disgusted? So these are some of the examples that are covered in this book. Oh, we have a new person watching. Hi. If you want to write in the comments, we're talking about spelling mistakes and people are sharing their most embarrassing spelling mistakes. So far, the only person in the limelight has been me, but we might have people watching this video later on and writing in the comments what their funny spelling mistakes have been. So I don't want to take any more time today because I could be talking about spelling mistakes forever. I love them. Yeah, for linguists, you can look at spelling mistakes done in the Middle Ages or in late antiquity or in early Latin, and from those spelling mistakes, understand it's almost like a recording what people's language would have really have sounded like, because people tend to write as they speak. That's the tendency, and I have to say we should embrace it. Otherwise, you end up with problems like English has. Okay, so I'm going to keep it short. Reading recommendation, spell it out. Message to take away from today's session: don't be scared of your spelling mistakes. Embrace them. They're lots of fun. You can learn so much about the history of the language from them and about the changes that the language is going through as well. Like, I'm sure some of you will have been quite annoyed when people say, I would have done it with off. And you think, why are you doing that? Well, think about the sounds, and then you will understand why people are making that spelling mistake. So, pleasure seeing everyone, and we'll be in touch. Bye-bye.